project is to bring training to the community, and we thought that a great first training would be talking about trauma-informed court. So we're really happy to be hosting this conversation today. Anna, do we have Judge Martin? Has he gained entry yet?
I saw Dana. I'm not sure.
He's sitting down.
Oh, there he is.
There we go.
Yeah,
Okay,
we put him
great.
under my login. So
Okay, no problem. Before we start, I have to for those of you who are here for CLE credit, in the packet of materials that you received yesterday is your attorney affirmation form. I'm going to give you the course code, and then there'll be one other code given during the program. But the course code for today is 07012021. And that is it for me for now. I don't know if Dr. Ham and Judge Martin are ready to go.
Did you want everyone to turn off their videos besides us?
Yes, thank you very much. If you could, if you're not presenting, if you could turn off your video, that'll help Judge Martin and Dr. Ham stay at the top of your screen. And then another thing that may make it a little easier is if you select speaker view instead of gallery view, you'll only see the person who's speaking.
Okay, do we skip introductions? Do we talk about how this thing came about? People don't need introductions today. Okay?
Dr. Ham, I think I did a very brief introduction because I want to just get to the conversation.
That's fine. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
I do want to say that to give context for this conversation, CCI had approached me about launching this trauma-informed training, and I said that I wouldn't do it unless they could convince me that it would be something more than just PowerPoints and 101. And we are brainstorming about what it could be. And I had heard that that Judge Martin starts a lot of his meetings, or when he's wrestling with trauma-informed practice, he gives anecdotes of cases that really broke his heart and just felt really frustrating. And he wanted to be able to figure out how to help those families. And I thought, it would be amazing. Like, I want to be able to showcase judges who really care and want to learn, and they would have the best pulse of what their courts need. And it'd be best if we could just have a conversation, workshopping and wrestling with really applying trauma-informed principles in a court setting. So instead of just being didactic, if we could just like have a random conversation, and we already had one. We had an hour-long conversation already. That was amazing. And I wish we had just recorded that and we could just show you guys what that was. But instead we'll try to recreate it or maybe just continue it depending on where the conversation goes. Judge Martin, do you want to say anything else as an introduction?
Well, I do. Thank you very much, Dr. Ham, and also the Family First team that we have. I want to call them our family at this point. They're amazing individuals, amazing collective body of people who are as empathetic and understanding as you would ever want to meet. And I thank Dr. Ham for joining us, and your perspective is so it's so unique, except it shouldn't be. And so I'm very grateful to have you and to see you again. Just looking at you gives me a sense of calm. I have to tell you, considering the trauma of signing up to this Zoom meeting, which we've been trying to do for a half an hour. I appreciate being here. That's a minor miracle. So it's great to have everybody here, and I think we're going to have fun just sharing what we're thinking about. What we're thinking about a lot in court is how can we help the families, and how can we help the children, and how can we try and find the miracle that we're all looking for in every single case that comes in. And I think the key is working together collaboratively. It's not a competition. It's not somebody trying to get the upper hand. At least that's the way I look at it. The attorneys might differ with that, but it's really, we're all in the same game together. We're all playing together. And we need to help the family the best way we can, who's going through troubles and times that we can't even imagine. And I know, Dr. Ham, you meet with these individuals on a very personal level. And you mentioned when we were talking last time that how you connect with them is very interesting. And would you be able to share that again as far as the emotions that you experience when you are working with somebody? I was just blown away with that.
Yeah, I think the best way to do that is to start by what you said earlier, use the keyword collaborate. And I find that it's really fascinating that the goal of, I think, working with anyone and being trauma informed. Whoa, where did you go? Are you still here?
I'm still here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay. And the goal is that there's a lot of C words. Collaborate is one, compassion is another one that you just mentioned. You didn't say the word, but you're saying how we can kind of like understand that these are families who are going through really hard times and how can we help them. Connection. And then when you said, just looking at you brings me a sense of calm, another C word. And then another thing is this idea of clarity, and this is where I think that I want to spend a little bit of time just like giving a foundational sense of the way I work and what I think is important. I think that the most important thing, the way we get to all those good C words is by realizing that we have this brain that's always battling with itself. And in fact, when you said like maybe the lawyers would disagree, I think that they sometimes can represent two aspects of the whole human being. And the two aspects that I'm talking about in the brain are the part of us that is fear-based, risk-focused, completely focused on survival and protection. And that part is very, very old. All animals have it. And it's the part that makes us act impulsively. It makes us think in black and white terms. It makes us really want an answer and a solution. And it also makes us need to find an enemy. It makes us other people. It creates us versus them. There's all these like really interesting things that happen to our brains as we enter this survival state of mind. And I think that'll become unpacked as we keep talking. And then the other part that's really hard to cultivate is this prefrontal function. Like the part that's focused on fear is like the limbic system. And then the part that's really focused on the C's and all these more virtuous, aspirational, noble things about us are the prefrontal functions. And the ones that people typically talk about are the things that are involved with executive function, which is the stuff that ADHD boys can't do and people with traumatic brain injury can't do. It's like impulse control, delayed gratification, self-regulation, decision-making, planning, all the things that logic help us with, and strategy and forethought. But then there's also these really, really nice, lovely things that are relevant for therapy, which is awareness of your body, awareness of your feelings, awareness of your emotions, and then awareness of the other person in relation to you, which is where the empathy and compassion comes in. And then also at the highest level, awareness of our virtues, of what we're trying to accomplish. And you set this, you must naturally do it because you set the stage for this conversation by saying that we're trying to help children and families that present in our court. So you're immediately activating prefrontal function by doing that. And for all the neurobiology geeks, what's really fascinating is that those things that I just listed are actually stacked on top of each other in the brain. And so that like the higher up the brain gets, the more we're talking about like principles and virtues and morality. And then the lower it's about awareness of body, awareness of feelings and up. So I think that's the gist of the most important thing to do, I think, is to always track which part of our brain is winning, is up and active. And we need both. That's the issue. We always need to have our survival system ready to protect us, and keep us safe and everyone, while we also need this part that strives and aspires and thrives. And it's really just being able to balance the two. And the way trauma comes in is that people who've had to live in dangerous circumstances or have been harmed really badly, their brains just go to, they default to survival mode. And it's really hard to get unstuck from that. And I would say that any of us who work in an unsafe environment, who have like mean colleagues or bosses, or just feel stressed all the time, can also get stuck in survival mode thinking too. And so our task is to help each other, like, to get out of that and to get into an aspirational state as much as possible. And we definitely need each other to do that, because another key feature of survival mode is that we lose self-awareness. And so I won't know that I'm in survival mode until my wife says, stop yelling at me. And then I'll say, I'm not yelling at you. What the heck are you talking about? I promised the judge I wouldn't swear yet. So.
So can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Many times, it seems to me that some of those aspects can become numb. And so we want to, all of us, get to that top place. And yet the path is filled with obstacles. And it could be obstacles, we just had a bad day. You know, we could be feeling the pain that's preventing us from getting to that next step. And do you find that, let's say you're having a session with somebody and you are personally feeling that, how do you break through that? And the patient doesn't know that that's what's going on unless you tell them. It's interesting. I'd be curious to whether or not you actually say, I'm having a whatever. But how do you work through that to get to that place where you know you need to be?
I can't, wow. This is so exciting. This question is so good. There's so many steps to this. Step one is that for me, what I do for myself to track whether or not I'm getting numb is that I've had to do so much work to learn one of the C's, self-compassion. Like, I think that we all numb out because of shame and self-criticism. Shoot, I'm going to have to come up with a different word for criticism because it's a C word. But it's when we are racked with shame and guilt and avoidance, then we can't even tolerate the question about, like, why am I getting numb? So there's a lot of work that needs to be done first there. And then the second thing is that sometimes if I know ahead of time that I'm having a bad day, I will actually start therapy by saying, you're going to get a B game. Yeah, it's my B game today. I'm sorry. I'm like having a really bad day. Because the truth is that people with trauma, they've learned to hypervigilantly track other people to determine whether they're safe or dangerous. And so they can read your state of mind immediately. Or sometimes they'll overprescribe threat to you. But there are people who, oh, maybe I should do this way. This is really quick. This slide that'll really hit it home. Oops. Okay, look at that. We are going to use PowerPoint. This is going to be very quick. Where are you? Okay. Oh, I cannot share my screen. Okay.
Dr. Ham, try again. I just made you a co-host.
Okay. So you see this, right? What emotion is that?
I don't see anything.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Do you see this? No?
Nope.
Okay, hold on 1 second then. All right, one last time and then I'm going to stop. This.
No.
Okay, forget it. What I was going to say, oh, it almost worked. It doesn't matter. It was a picture of a face morphing from a sad expression to an angry expression over a series of 10 different pictures. And they've done studies where they've shown that children who have experienced physical abuse, they will see anger at slide 4, and people without physical abuse will see anger at slide 7. Because the face goes like this. I'm going to be the morphing face. It goes like, and then it goes like this by the end. And so it's a very gradual change in expression. And what that tells us is that kids who have been abused can see anger. They read the nuances of facial expression, and they can see anger a mile away when it doesn't matter to anyone else. But for physically abused kids, when they see the corrugator muscles, these muscles wrinkle, their body already starts to go into like, uh-oh, this is dangerous. Next comes yelling, next comes hitting. And their bodies start to get sweaty and stressed out. And so even now, the way that you're looking at me with a look of like curiosity and inquisitiveness, there's a little bit of corrugator muscle going on between your eyebrows. And for some people, your look will feel like a challenge, like a threat, just because if they've been abused that much, they're going to think, you don't believe me, do you? You think I'm lying, or whatever it is. Their survival brain starts to try to make sense of why their bodies are feeling threat.
So are there any particular words that you've used effectively with people who are feeling that exact thing when they come
Yes.
into your office?
Yes, and we had this in our conversation before where you're asking for words, I'd rather give you general principles so that you can like come up with the words that fit who you are, fit the right moment, and fit the person that you're talking to. And the general principle would be to somehow name what's going on in a way that helps them feel like they're not being judged or criticized and seen as doing something that's good for them. So I would say maybe I would be something like, it doesn't feel like it. I don't get the sense that you trust me. I don't get the sense. It looks like you feel unsafe, or that might be too risky because it's imputing what they're going through. I might say, did I say something wrong? So that I'm saying that the onus is on me, that I did something wrong. Or I might say something doesn't feel right between us. So it's not even about me or you, it's just between us. Somehow come up with a way to say, hey, let's reflect on what's going on. And as soon as you do that, you ask that question, you're basically activating prefrontal function again, because it's that self-awareness and wondering about what's happening in between us. It's making the prefrontal cortex come back online. Were you thinking about anything in particular when you asked that question?
Well, I was, and I want to follow that up by saying, let's say we have a person in court, a 15, 16-year-old in court, and they're old enough to distrust the universe, I would think, including me, or you, or their attorney. So, so we ask them, how can we help you? And I'm coming to the conclusion that maybe they just don't know the answer either. Or we're assuming they know the answer. And if they don't know the answer, then we can't help them because you don't even know what you want. And so shouldn't we be aware of that? In other words, the attorneys that represent the parties, like they may just, sometimes I say this is the best thing that ever happened, even though you're in deep trouble, because we now can begin the process that's necessary to work on this, all of us together, without judging. I know I say that a lot in my court. We don't want to judge anybody. The irony is, let's not do that. Let's try to understand people and help them and collaboratively together, because I can't do it alone, not even close. And everybody needs to work on this together. It's not adversarial. Again, I go back to that. But if the party doesn't know what they don't know, how do we get it out of them?
I keep visualizing this thing of popping up and then looking down. So let's stay in the role play. You just asked, is there anything I can do to help you? And what's the can you role play this for me? Like, give me
Sure.
a visual of what how they say, I don't know.
Well, let's say they're coming into court and they, vandalized some property. And they were a group of their friends and they were just all part of the group. And I'm one of the people that, did something. But I'm in a gang or I'm in a group, so I don't want to expose my weakness to them. And so I have to maintain my honor, and I don't want to snitch on them. So I'm really caught between a rock and a hard place. I'm trying to help myself. I have a good attorney. Hopefully I have a judge who's listening instead of judging. And yet I can't take the next step because it'll destroy who I am.
And are their friends in the court? Or
No.
Okay, perfect.
They're not. But they'll find out about it. If I say, okay, I need your help, or okay, all right, they're going to find out about whatever it is that I did. So I've got to be careful.
Okay.
To protect them and to protect myself.
Wow.
Because I'm afraid and I'm scared and all that stuff that you talked about.
That's incredibly insightful to think about what their entire experience when asked that question. So you're very far along already. So then you ask, how can we help you? And they say, nothing, I'm good, or something, right? And then do you want me to tell you what I would do, or do you want to try to tell me what you would do?
Well, I'm asking you, and to be very frank, I'm not afraid to say I really don't know. I really
Okay.
don't know. I think that I just have to read that person in 10 seconds or less,
Right.
or his parents or her parents who may or may not be there. And especially on Zoom, that takes away 90% of what your body movement, all of that language, and gone. All I can do is look at them and
Yeah.
say, man, I hope I'm reading this right. So it
Okay.
depends.
So then, well, based on it sounds like let's just assume that you had read it the first way you described it, with this need for honor and need to make sure that this doesn't get found out. Then I would say that was such a dumb question. How could you answer that question? I can't imagine. Your silence it just tells me, well, I don't know what it means, but there's probably a really good reason why you can't tell me an answer for that question. So I'm already ennobling their defiance and giving it a reason. And then I would maybe, oh my God, I feel so stuck, because I know that part of you doesn't want to answer because you need to protect yourself and maintain your honor. But then there's another part of me that so wants to help you, and that part feels so frustrated that I can't help you. I don't know what to do.
So I say, let's look at what's happening right now. You're in family court. You're with your mom or your dad or your alone. You have a lawyer to represent you. There are other people here from the county and maybe probation, and you're here in front of a judge. Is this the place you want to be? Is this what you thought about in your best days that you would kind of be here?
I would, if I were a teen, in my head, I would be saying F you. Because it's patronizing to me. It's like, of course I don't want to be here. That's you're leading me in that question.
So how about the other way? What can we do to get you out of here? You're here, you're kind of stuck with us. We're all here. We all woke up this morning and we all gathered here to help you.
That's just saying the same thing that you initially said. it's something, but your intention is interesting with the thing that I rebelled against. The intention is like, you clearly, if you were to say something like, look, no one wants to be here. For sure, no one wants to be here. There's a part of you that hates being here. And there's a part of you that feels stuck. You can't answer the question. I don't know. There's a way to use what you're trying to get at still. I don't want you to just like get rid of it. If that's where your intuition's going, then there's a way to convert it into something that might be useful.
Could it be that we ask the teenager, I want you to think about this. This is your life. We are here to guide you in a place that you want to go, which doesn't create tension or anxiety or additional problems. And you need to think about what we can do to help you do that.
My goal is always to, if I'm being honest, that wouldn't work either, because the you need to think about would make me feel like you're wagging your finger at me, like I did something wrong or I should do something. And my rebellious teenage self would want to like tell you to go somewhere. But my goal is to actually try to make the conflict as palpable as possible. Because the more you help someone sit in their dilemma, it makes them teeter one way or the other. And so I would say something like, there's got to be, you must have really good reasons why you don't want to accept my help. And my guess is that those are all good reasons in the short term to maintain your friendships, to maintain your reputation and all this stuff. But then for me, what I'm trying to represent is your long-term game. Like you in the future, when you're grown, who you become as a man, as a husband, as a citizen of the community. And I think that what I would argue is that that's in tension with what your short-term gains are, maybe. And I don't know how to solve this for you, but I can tell you that if you keep doing the short-term stuff to win the short-term reputation and stuff, it could compromise your long-term game. And so you need to decide what's more important, the short-term wins or the wins in the future. And if you want the wins in the future, maybe I can help you with that, but you need to tell me that you want that. But if you need me to help strategize how to do both, yeah, that is going to be hard. But I want to figure out a way to do both.
What if they can't think about the future? What if the future is the next day?
That's actually one of the core symptoms of trauma, that your capacity to think about your future self is completely decimated. People think I'm going to be dead by the time I'm 21, 25. So what's the point? So if they're in that place, then I pop out of it and name it. I'm like, I might ask, if I didn't know all the stuff that you imputed with the insight that you gave, I might say, why are you having a hard time answering this question? And I'd give them a list to anchor extremes. Is it because you just don't know? Is it because you don't think about your future? Is it because you think you don't want to tell me because you don't trust me? Like give an interpersonal intention explanation. Is it because you're just numbed out and you're checked out? You're not even listening to me right now. So now I'm naming that maybe you're dissociating and not here. And even that makes the prefrontal brain come back online for a second. You just keep trying to pack in more prefrontal activation.
So what if you had a situation where you had the 14, 15, 16-year-old who's starting to appreciate their path and it's not a good one, but they have parents who don't.
I know.
And the problem is, oh my God, I can't do anything about the parents. And that's a real problem. So, when we work collaboratively, our goal is to reunite the family, but that might in fact be the worst thing that could possibly happen for this child. What happens then?
Depends on what the moment is. I need to have yeah.
So we've got through probation and their attorney perhaps, or maybe what's going on in court. We have a respondent who's ready to accept the help, ready to understand, maybe this isn't the best path for me. Maybe I'm not doing so well. But the parents, just for whatever reason they have, can't get there because of their background, their experience, and their whatever they've gone through. And so we really have a dilemma. We have a dilemma of, do I put that child back in that place where they have which created that which they are, or do we try to keep that child away from that place that created that which they are, because that place is tough.
Great. That's the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So I would try to figure out the answer for that by like, can you interview the parents?
Well, they're usually part of the court proceeding, and you get a really good feel that, oh man, that's a big problem. You know, they're in denial. They're enabling their child, or lots of times their language is not to be, recorded, but it gets recorded. You just let them go, but you can just tell it's just, oh my God, we've got some bigger problems here. And yet we're here for this 15-year-old, and I just, they took a shower. They're going to go back and they're going to get all dirty again. And now what? Now what?
Yeah. Okay. I have so many different frames. One is that, this is bad. Sometimes there are some workable parents where maybe their way of going through the world is actually a survival strategy itself. And so they have all this armor on and this bravado or whatever, or it's just like rage at like an unfair system or whatever, right? But for some reason, there's a justifiable reason why they present to the world this way. And so if you can get them, if you can acknowledge that can you tell that they love their kids? Okay, that becomes the anchor. And that my guess is that if they do love their kids, and they're trying to parent their kids to survive the world that they survived. So you teach your kids to punch back if you're punched. You like, don't let anyone disrespect you. Whatever, like do whatever you need to get yours, because that's what I learned about life. That's one strategy. Like these families who can see their ways of living in the world as a strategic choice based on what was needed to survive their lives. And now they're trying to impart the wisdom of what they've learned to their kids. And then you can sometimes say like, now that's one way to survive one specific type of environment, but there's a lot of risks to that. And it helps you only survive this particular type of environment, but not maybe another type of environment. And so can you be flexible in the way you approach raising your child? Because your intention is to help your child succeed in more than one type of environment. There's maybe, I don't know how many families there are like that. There's another, God, what I really want to say, what I do in therapy is just like, we have a dilemma on our hand. The kid's ready, but you're not. And I need to feel like your kid is ready, that you're gonna like help keep this kid clean. We just showered him. I need to feel that it's gonna be, that you're gonna take good care of him. I put a lot of work into helping get this kid to where he is. And I really care about his success. Oh, I like that, because it feels like you, like it's coming out of a place of caring for the kid. And the only dangerous thing is that you have to make sure that you're helping you're bringing the family on board to caring about the kid with you. It's not just, I care about them and you don't. That'll blow up in your face. You can't love the kid more than the parents do, or you can't think that you love them more than the parents do. That's again, like all being goal directed, mission focused. And if they hear that kind of language, they might soften, because instead of thinking that you're trying to attack them, judge the way they lived and attack their kid, they'll be like, oh, wow, maybe I'll take a risk with you.
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts I have for that. And these are random thoughts. So one is we work with the family. I know we do in Dutchess County, work with the family. So this generational issue can be, maybe modified, could be altered, could be helped, so that when the child resumes his or her life with that family, it's the family's in a better place than it was because this child got in trouble. Isn't that the irony? The child helped the family. And then in addition to and another thought is, well, if the experts who are phenomenal experts are having roadblocks with the family, can we at least take some comfort that the generational problems might have been substantially helped with this child? It might have
Correct.
ended with this child.
Yes, that's the other extreme. Like the parents who might be workable, and then the parents who aren't, and the kid is workable. Then it's the message somehow that I want to impart on the kid is like, survive this, survive until you're grown. Don't let them take away like this ember of goodness in you. Whatever life throws at you, don't let it take away this ember of goodness that I see in you. And protect it. Like do whatever you need to do to survive this, but then when you're safe, let that goodness grow. But you're validating that it's going to be a struggle, but to not own it. Because if your parents are mean to you, then you're going to own that. You're going to think that you have to be this monster that society wants you to be, or parents or society. But just say like, that's just them.
That's very interesting. So, and that could be tough when the parents are there.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't necessarily do it in front of the parents. That's a real aggressive move against the parents. This is the dilemma. Like sometimes whenever I am really feeling compassion and advocating for the child, it makes me become angry and fierce. And I'll be willing to yell at parents, especially when I see that their child is being hurt. Because we all have this protective, it's a good energy in the world. It's a protective instinct for children. But we have to like direct it appropriately. That's the problem.
I have a question that's sort of semi-related. When you have a patient that comes in for the first time, when you are, you have a blank slate, I assume. So, or do you?
Meaning I know nothing about them?
Right, other than just barely anything.
Yeah, and people will try to refer people to me and try to tell me about what's going on, and I will refuse to hear it.
Okay.
So I really want a blank slate.
All right. And so, so when you're meeting with them, and the parallel thought is, and when they come into court for the first time, are you looking at, you're looking at getting to know them, I assume, and all of that, but I have this thought that everybody's good until you prove to me that you're not, as opposed to the other way around. Like you're here to see me because you've got a problem, as opposed to you're a terrific person. I don't see that you have a problem, but maybe you do, and let's talk about it. And I'm just thinking if that's something you ever do, or is that something that we could do in court? In other words, I don't look at the times you struck out. I want to look at the time that you get up to the plate and hit a nice single. Let's talk about that.
Well, that was two different topics. The first one was about like goodness. Can we see people's goodness? Yeah, that's so interesting. See, what I would say is that when I don't see people as just good, I see them as like in that Taoist way, good and bad mixing together, swirling all the time. That we have the prefrontal good part that wants us to be the best self, and then there's this limbic part that can be mean, nasty, petulant, aggressive, or whatever, this withdrawn. And can I keep looking for the good part even when the limbic part is taking over? And to realize that when the limbic part is taking over, can I see that functionally as a good thing, as a self-protective thing, not as a bad thing to be condemned? Like a protective thing with a lot of dumb like costs accrued. Like they're not thinking it through. They're just trying to protect themselves. This is where like the metaphor of the Incredible Hulk as a example of all limbic person really works, because the Hulk is super aggressive and destructive, but they're a superhero that is aimed to protect people and to protect himself. Can you still see that Hulk is a superhero, not one of the villains in the MCU or whatever it is?
So I've used this example with my children and whoever can listen to this. I love chocolate ice cream. Love it. Love it. But I have to have some vanilla with that because it makes the chocolate taste.
It does. Absolutely. Yes.
And so there's this guy, Neil Donald Walsh, who said this is going to sound a little, in the absence of that which is not, that which is not.
Yeah.
So you take the good, and the good can be better, and as long as the bad is put in check. But don't get rid of the bad, because that's who you are, and that maybe, keeps somebody humble or whatever. And I don't know if that's too complicated to explain to these kids. It's like, you got here, and it's okay. We're gonna do what we can, but that's part of your personality. We want to just make the good shine.
So the only point of contention is the word keep it in check, because keep it in check is a lot of wasted energy, and we fight with ourselves, and then you're going to lose. Instead, it's more like understand what the function of that bad part is. Like this kid who's not answering your question, to go full circle. Can someone mute themselves? This kid who isn't answering the questions isn't a bad self that needs to be checked. There's a function behind the not answering the questions. So if you're acting aggressively, why are you doing that? Like we were doing an interview of this kid at one of the detention centers here, and he went and beat up someone and almost killed him. And he said, if I didn't do that, then people would think I'm a punk and they would attack me or my brother. And my brother's, disabled, and I need to make sure that he's going to be okay.
Boy, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's way more complex. And so you have to honor that part. The bad behaviors aren't really bad. So don't check it. You have to honor that. You have to say, okay, why am I doing this? And what's the cost of that? Is there any other way that I can accomplish this? Or is this just my life in this circumstance? But then can I learn to play within different rules when the rules of the game change? That's really hard, learning cognitive flexibility.
Have you ever had a situation where it's very interesting, so especially football players, they have whatever they've got going on. And is it possible to parlay that which they have, which has caused problems for them, into something good, but still
Absolutely. Yes. That's the goal of trauma work. You turn all the horrible things that happen to you into something that inspires you to do better for the world, to convert it into, it's called post-traumatic growth, but like there's a lot of people with trauma who go on to like do incredible things in the world because they want something different for them. But the path to doing that is, I don't know, that's a long answer. I don't know if I'm answering your question even. Can you help a football player who's come from hard times, from suffering? Yeah, you have to help them to reconnect with their bodies, accept their rage, that they need to have rage because it's their body saying, this should never have happened to me. Or it's their body saying, I wish I could have fought back, but I couldn't. And now that need to fight back is stuck in my body. And so that rage is trying to tell me, I want to be able to protect myself from being hurt. And so can you accomplish that goal of protecting yourself without using rage all the time? And then can you like grieve what you've been through? Can you go into vulnerable feelings? And then once you are able to do all of that, then you can say like, now what do you want to do with this? How do you want to turn this into something good in the world? How do you grow from this? I have a lot of patients who want to make books, podcasts, like write something for the world to tell their story and to help other people.
And that's, well, that's a success story, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be able to see that. I met another judge. We have like 5 minutes left. It's the last story. I met another judge who told me that he keeps a picture of this one kid that he had in his court who was like super nervous, and the person next to him was telling him, the judge asked him like, how are you doing today? And the boy didn't answer. And the guy next to him was like, speak up, the judge is talking to you. And the judge said, no, he's nervous. You and I, let's take a deep breath together. Let's do some breathing. So he helped to regulate the kid. And he goes, I really want to know, how are you doing today? How's school? I want to get to know you as a person. Before I'd like help you with your life, I need to you told me similar things. And he helped this kid. When the kid graduated, he sent him a photo of his graduation day. And he said, thanks, Judge. And that photo is on his bench. We need to be driven by those stories.
So, you know, the lesson learned on that is forgive the Italians here. You know, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? But how you doing? I want to know how you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And look at them in the eye and say, how are you doing? And stop and wait for an answer, as opposed to how you doing? Good seeing you, and then you move on.
Yeah.
Because I think that's just.
Do every act with intention. That's the bottom line. With real intention and sincerity. We have 3 minutes. People are begging for codes. We didn't even give people a chance to, can the codes be put in? There's a code. The first code is in the chat and the second code.
The codes can't be repeated once they're given.
Got it.
I do have code number 2 to provide, and that's 31.
That's
and the
much easier.
codes are only needed if you're an attorney applying for CLE credit. If you're not an attorney and you're here, you know, from another organization, you don't need to worry about the codes or the form.
And the purpose of this conversation, if we're going to wrap up, is to figure out whether or not we want to have a second one, whether a conversation like this inspires more questions that want to be asked. And maybe I could talk to you all day, to tell you the truth. You're inspiring to me. But maybe what we can ask for from the audience is if this was useful for them, because I'm mindful of the fact that we have people to tend to in the audience. I don't think we have time to answer questions, but if there's enough of interest, then I'd love for us to do this again.
I don't actually, I don't want to put you guys on the spot, but I can let the Zoom run and stop the recording if people do have questions and want to stay, that's fine. Because I know we're approaching 2:00, if you are an attorney and you're submitting for CLE credit, the completed form and the evaluation sheet that were in your materials should be filled out, scanned, and emailed back to me. And my email address is the one that sent you the link and the materials yesterday, but I'll give it to you again just in case. It's JANNA@DuchessCountyBar.org, and that's all spelled out. I am going to stop the recording now, and then if there's questions,